Hello, my name is Jonathan Thomas, and this is a presentation on device imaging and restoration. This is for CNT 6418, Computer Forensics 2, February 2017. So, brief overview of what I'll be discussing today. I'll start with the definition of device imaging and restoration, and then I'll move on to the brief history of it. Following, I will talk about how the disk imaging is used in digital forensics, which is this class. And then I'll talk about different programs and software on the three main operating systems used today. So what is device imaging and restoration? Device imaging is the process of making a copy of the contents and structure of a disk volume or an entire data storage device, such as hard drive disk, USB flash drive, CD, etc. So anything with any storage volume on it can be imaged and created an image of. A disk image is made by creating a sector-by-sector copy of the source medium, thus perfectly replicating the structure and contents of a storage device independent of the file system. In image restoration is the act of restoring an image to a device. So it's the reverse engineering of the image file that was created. So brief history of device imaging. In the 1960s, IBM would back up their mainframe disk media, and those would be up to 330 megabytes at the time, which was very large. And those were big size hard drives. And then the imaging became popular in the 1980s once floppy disks were introduced, and you could easily transfer the images from device to device by using those floppy disks. Some file formats which are commonly used, this table was taken off of a Wikipedia page, and so for example optical disk or CDs. Many common file types are ISO, that's the main one used today, but there's also IMG or CSO or MDX, those are all commonly used also. Hard disk also use the IMG file, IMG is the main file format for disk imaging. ISO is for CDs, as previously said. And floppy disk also used IMG, IMA, or IMZ file formats. So what are some uses for device restoration and digital forensics? In solving computer crime cases, computer forensics is used to gather evidence which will be analyzed and presented to a court of law to prove the illegal activity. It is important that when doing computer forensics, no alteration, virus introduction, damages, or data corruption occurs. In order to do a good analysis, the first step is to do a secure collection of computer evidence. A secure collection of evidence is important to guarantee the evidential integrity and security of information. The best approach for this matter is to use disk imaging tool. Choosing the right tool is very important in computer forensics investigation. So some concerns when using digital forensics in investigations is data integrity. It's very vital to court cases, especially high-profile ones. Increasing storage capacity in modern devices means creating complete images takes more time. So nowadays there's terabytes upon terabytes disk drives out there, so those take time to create a full bit-by-bit copy of the device. With more digital devices coming onto the market every day, the need for fast imaging increases. Excuse me. And the need for fast imaging is even greater for on-site or emergency investigations, which needs to be done quickly in order to quickly resolve the potential risk that is involved, whether it's a virus that was introduced or data corruption or any sort of issue. So at the start of investigation, all investigated work will be done on the image, testifying that the device investigated was isolated from everything as soon as the investigation begins. So once the crime scene investigator who will perform the imaging comes onto the scene, they must disable the internet connection, remove any removable devices, and just don't run any programs other than the imaging software. This is to verify that the image is anything done on the device once the investigation has begun can be used in the court. So if you did make an alteration or any change to the program, then that might be suspicious to the prosecutor and may set the bad guy free. So we'll begin taking a look at some imaging and restoration programs on Windows. So there's two main ones out there for Windows. The first one is Acronis True Image, and the second is Note and Ghost. Both of those are pretty similar. We can take a look real quick at the website for them, just to take a look at the features and benefits and cons to each one. So for Acronis True Image, you take a look, you can back up, you can do a full image backup, file and folder backup, powerful work that you can recover, do device restoration, no interruption backup, multiple backup plans so it can be set on a schedule. One downside to Acronis is that it is paid. It's a paid program. So it is $50 for a one-time purchase. But if you are for a business, then this might be a good solution, because you can also back up to the cloud or back up mobile devices. And its competitor, Norton Ghost, has almost identical features. It is also a paid product, and the only difference is, after researching this, I've concluded that it seems Norton is a little slower in backing up large volumes. But other than that, they do just about the same thing until you get into the nitty-gritty details. So as the page loads, oh, and Norton also has a free trial you can use just to test it out as add-ons. So moving on, we'll look at a couple other free alternatives for Windows. The first one being Drive Image XML. And the second is Paragon Backup and Recovery. So I'll load those sites real quick. So Drive Image XL. This one is a free one. It can be run on any Windows from XP all the way up to 10. So it's an updated program. So you can back up your drives and partitions. You can browse images, restore images to the same or a different drive, make a copy, schedule automatic backups. So this one seems pretty full-fledged of all the features. And you can even run from a live CD, which is an excellent feature. And Paragon is also there's a free edition available, and it has the backup and recovery and backup capsule, so you can place a backup image to a special secure place on the hard disk. You can isolate it. You can create partitions. You can format the partitions. So this is also another full-fledged program out there for Windows. So moving on, we'll move on to Mac, and we'll discuss that Mac has built-in software on their operating system called Disk Utility and Time Machine. Both those are used to create backups for your personal device. So this is more of a personal public use that anyone can create a backup and put it and store it on a hard drive, a separate hard drive, so that in case something goes wrong, they can restore it any time. A third-party solution for a Mac would be Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper. So we'll take a look at those real quick. So Carbon Copy Cloner is probably the main third-party solution for Mac programs. So this one, you can do full backup and restore. bootable backup, so you can boot from your backup and keep working even when your hard disk breaks. Smart updates update only the files that have been added or modified. This will increase time or decrease time, excuse me, so make your restorations quicker. Backups anywhere, and you can have a household license, so you can run it on every Mac in your house. This is, however, a paid solution, so it is not free. There's a little trial, but it's $40, and the difference between that and the Time Machine is this has a lot more features. Super Duper, this one is a free program for Mac. It's a widely acclaimed program that makes recovery painless. You can make a fully bootable backup. So this one is probably very useful for someone a bit more than the average user who wants to make other backups or partitions or such. Moving on to Linux. So as discussed in the class, the main or easiest backup solution would be DD, which is the command line prompt. I won't go into that since we've already had a lecture on that. But the two programs that I'd like to discuss are Redo Backup and Recovery and Gparted. I will load up their sites. So Redo is, this is a very good program out there. Small, fast, easy use, so no installation, so you can boot it from a CD or USB. Boots in seconds, so it says 30 seconds from USB, which is very quick and doesn't use any space at all. At least nowadays, 250 megabytes is very small. Works with Windows or Linux, which is nice. Find network shares, access your files, recover lost data, factory drive reset, drive configuration tools, so you can mess with the partitions of your device, which is very useful. So this seems like a very full-fledged program out there, and it is free. And the second one is Gparted, GNOME Partition Editor. This one is just a partition program, so it's not a full-fledged program for backing up and restoration, but you can resize, copy, and move partitions without data loss. You can grow or shrink your drive, and it has lots of different file systems you can manipulate. So moving on, there's one program which I haven't talked about, which is probably the main backup and restoration program out there. It's called Clonezilla. So Clonezilla supports basically every file system out there that you can think of. EX2, EX3 for F2FS, all the FATs. For Mac, it supports HFS+, Minix on Minix, and VMware. So pretty much any file system you can think of out there, this supports. So therefore, you can clone GNU/Linux, Windows, Intel, Mac-based OS, FreeBSD, NetBSD, OpenBSD, Minix, VMware, ESX, and Chrome OS, no matter if it's 64-bit or 32-bit. So for the above file systems, only used blocks in the partitions are saved and restored. So for unsupported file systems out there, a sector-by-sector copy is done by using the DD command, which is programmed into Clonezilla, because it is a Linux-based program. There are some disadvantages, however, to Clonezilla. The first one is the destination drive has to be equal to or larger than the source, so you can't do a half partition or whatever. And in order to resize the partitions, you have to use a different program since Clonezilla doesn't have any of that built in. It can't do differential or incremental backups, so it's a clone everything tool, which is good for digital forensics investigations where you just want to clone everything, one click, be done with it. But if you want to just clone a certain part, maybe save time, then you'll have to use a different program. And also it has issues with some software and firmware RAID options. And it also can't create explorable images. So we can take a look at the Clonezilla site briefly, because this program, it's the most popular program out there. So there's a lot of tutorials or instructions or help forums or Q&As out there. So bootloader including Grub, so you can use Grub for this. The image could be encrypted. This is done with encrypt FS, so you can encrypt your image. Multicast is supported. AES 256 encryption by using another free software, DRB WinRoll, which is also developed by us. The hostname group and SID of cloned Windows machine can be automatically changed, which is super useful. So minimum system requirements, 96 megabytes of RAM. So next to nothing. So it can be run on basically any computer nowadays. And here again, here's some more limitations, which I didn't mention. Imaging or cloning is not implemented for online, so you can't back up to the cloud. And Recovery Clonezilla Live with multiple CDs or DVDs is not implemented yet. So it has to be on one CD or DVD. And it's also under the GPL license, so it's open source. So in conclusion, the need for disk imaging is crucial in digital forensics. Many different tools out there for every operating system. So as a digital forensics investigator, you need to create a copy or an image. That's the first step of your job once you get onto the scene. So once the IT professional at whatever business or situation calls for, they'll call you and let you know. The first step is to tell them to not touch anything. Don't mess with anything or any programs or software on it. Just don't touch the system. Unplug it from the internet and let it be until you can get there and create an image. And then once you create that image, however long it takes, depending on the size of the device, then you can start working on it, and you work on the cloned image. So it might be a good idea to make two images at least. That way you have multiple ones you can work on, or in case your image gets corrupted, then you have a backup always. Investigators must choose which tool for each situation. So it depends on which operating system, what they need. Do they need partitions? Do they need partial backups? Do they need partial restorations? Do they need multiple CDs? So as an investigator, you have to be knowledgeable of a lot of these programs and be able to decide which one can use for each situation, since there isn't one solution out there that does everything. They all do a lot of things, but there's not one out there that does everything. So you'll have to know which ones to use in which situation. And as mentioned previously, the image created must be an exact replicate. If it's not an exact replicate, if the MD5 checksum is off or anything, then it's basically useless in court. You won't be able to be verified that it's an exact copy, and maybe you did something. The prosecutor could question you as the investigator. So yeah, you just have to be very careful that it's an exact bit by bit replicate, and you make sure the checksums match. These are my references and links used. So I got a few things from a Wikipedia article on disk imaging, and the table was from the file format. I use this white paper source, which is very useful. I'll just briefly go over that since it was super useful for me. And I use the Life Hacker article to come up with Linux imaging tools, disk cloning tools, because I'm not very familiar with Linux. I don't use Linux personally every day. But this was the SANS Institute article I read, an overview of disk imaging tool in computer forensics. So it was very useful. But that is all I have. That is my presentation on device imaging and restoration. Thank you very much.